Yeah, we dancing in the studio.
I love it.
The DELO studio. I put up green for the $1 Million Teacher Project.
Is that it? Wasn't? No, that's always green.
No. I can do many colors here.
Okay.
You see that?
Okay.
I'm all color coordinated.
Well, I appreciate it.
Originally it was orange, and I'm like, I don't think Lloyd's an orange type of guy.
On brand. I like things to be on brand.
On brand for sure. So today I have a superstar guest, Mr. Lloyd Hopkins. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I don't know about superstar, but I'm a hardworking, purpose-driven.
You are a superstar.
Individual trying to just do my part.
I'm gonna go as far as calling you Black Jesus. How's that?
Don't put that on me. Don't put that on me. Don't do it.
The man is doing God's work. I'm telling you, it's absolutely amazing, and I want to get into that and talk about all that. Now, we have been blessed to have known each other a year, maybe?
About a year.
About a year.
Connected through Robin Reed with the Black Chamber, through the Black Chamber of Commerce. And
it was in passing, because I was doing a STN.
That's right. You came down to STN, which is another hat that I wear. So I'm involved with the Social Television Network. And you came down and Robin was like, the two of you need to connect. And
I looked out the window and I saw this really cool car that you had, and I said, "Oh man, this cat's cool."
We like our adult toys.
Yes, you do.
We like the adult toys, but it's my fun car, and there's a story behind it, man. Like, we went through a lot last year. Lost my father-in-law to cancer. My mother was diagnosed with brain cancer last May, and so we come back, and while we're out of town, we had lost my father-in-law. Now we're in Minnesota, because that's where my mom lives. Because she had just got diagnosed, and so we left my car. That I had an Xterra at the time, like a 2011 Xterra.
Dude, I had one of those too.
That I loved. I absolutely loved that car, and I'm sad that I had to get rid of it. Like, I would still have it. I moved entire houses in that car, straight up. And so we left it with my aunt, with my wife's aunt.
Okay.
And she was driving my car, and I think she drove it harder than I did, because I treated that thing like a delicate flower, even though it was an Xterra. And she broke my car. She broke the car, and we took it to the dealership, and they couldn't fix it because it was a 2011. They don't got any of the equipment anymore. And so we go to the dealership, and my wife is like, again, just lost my father-in-law. Mom has brain cancer. And she's doing well. She's stable today. Okay. But all of this was fresh, and we were on the lot, and that car is standing there. And I couldn't take my eyes off of it. And I was actually trying to get a more sensible car. I was like, I'm going to just get a van, to drive everybody around, something I could just afford, and it's not
a minivan, Lloyd, and a minivan.
Minivan, Lloyd. And I kept looking at my wife saw, and she's like, "You should drive it," because she went with me. And so we go drive it, and I'm like, I'm still on the fence. And then she calls my son. So I have a 21-year-old son. He is 20 at the time. And he's the one that pushed me over.
Okay.
He's like, "Yeah, you need to get that." And I was like, I want the car my son thinks is cool. I've never really had the cool kid car.
You let him drive it?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, as soon as we got it, and so I went ahead and did it, man. So it's my reminder that you got to live for today, and you got to let your hair down, and you got to allow yourself to have some fun.
That's beautiful.
Because tomorrow's not promised.
No.
So we got to enjoy the day. So every time I get in it and I turn the engine on and it revs.
You turn that stereo up.
The life comes through me.
I love it.
And I'm like, man, we live in the day, So that's the story.
And you probably do a lot of driving, right?
I do.
Yeah.
I do, because I'm going around to schools, meetings in and out. Your office is almost in Egypt compared to where my office is. And so we drive. So I do a lot of time on the road.
Yeah.
So that's also good. Have some fun.
Right.
To ride around in.
Yeah, I can relate to that, because a lot of going on appointments. I'm here in North Scottsdale, and for you that are out of state or whatever, just attribute it to if I'm going to Gilbert, it's going to be a good 30 to 40 miles, and then you got to come back, and you don't even equate. Wow, I just did 80 miles. So obviously we're doing a podcast, so I listen to good podcasts, or I just rock out to Hair Nation because I'm a butt rocker from the 80s. But yeah, it's almost like a meditation in essence if you enjoy it. As long as you're not getting caught up in everybody else's bullshit around you that's, cutting you off and maybe having a bad day.
And I'm definitely not an aggressive driver. And what I'll even say is prior to getting this car, so it's a Dodge Charger for those listening, souped up V8
What color is it?
engine.
Is it orange?
It's orange and black with racing stripes. And so prior to getting this thing, I wasn't a car guy.
Right.
So, and you get a car like this, and society forces you to be a car guy. Because every time I pull up, I run into car people, and they're like, "Oh, what kind of engine is it? Does it got a Hemi?" I'm like, "I don't know what the hell a Hemi is.
Right.
Like, what is it?
Yeah.
What kind of tires? What's in the hood?" And now I got in my notes on my phone, I have like details about my car.
That's
so
awesome.
when people ask me, I don't look like a complete jackass and where I don't know anything. So it's forced me to like be a pseudo car guy, but I'm absolutely not a car guy, and I got a car guy's car.
There you go, man. I'm not either. I got a Jeep that has an automatic roof that goes back, and that sold me. I'm like, if the light needs fixing, I bring it on in. I sit there with my laptop and wait for them to get done what they're good at. That's funny. So I want to talk about your magical powers first of all.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, I meet you in a lobby somewhere. I feel this kinship to you right away. And it's one of these things where I know that there's a lot of people that love and respect you, and you've gotten a lot of people involved with, and we'll get into, the $1 Million Teacher Project and what all that's about. I know that's going to be a mouthful, and it's going to be something that we really need to kind of explain to everybody because I want them to learn about it. But your magical power, to me, is getting people, let's just say, involved or in tune with something that they wouldn't have otherwise possibly had known about or thought of themselves as being in tune with something, and I'm the prime example of that. I meet you in a lobby, and next thing I know, I'm on a board with you, and I'm just like, how did that happen? Like, really?
Magic.
So I know it has a lot to do with your passion. I have my own answer, but tell the audience, what your magical power is.
I appreciate that, and I wouldn't necessarily say it's a magical power. What I will say is that it's a cultivated skill. Because what I pride myself on is being able to find the mutual benefit, that through line that we all have. Because regardless of your background, where you come from, there are innate things. There's intersections between what we care about.
Yeah.
Like the essentials in life that we care about and what we want to get out of life and the type of environment we want to live in. Like there's some connective tissue between us all.
All of us.
And we allow ourselves to get distracted by politics and religion and race and ethnicity and gender and all these type of things. And I choose, though I acknowledge that all those things are real, I choose how long I'll let myself live in certain spaces.
That's awesome.
And what I pride myself on is thinking about, what is that intersection? What is that thing we both care about? And how can we help each other meet our goals?
Yeah.
And so I really look at my work with $1 Million Teacher Project as a conduit, not just for your altruism, not just for, because you want to give back, but it's like, how can we create a reciprocal relationship where you help me do some good and I help you do some good, and you help me, you contribute to the work that we're doing in this organization, and I hope in some shape, form, or fashion we find a way to do the same for your business and for what you do. And I think that helps, and then also I try to be purposeful instead of just passionate. And I'm reading this book called Ego is the Enemy, and he has a chapter in there that talks about don't be passionate, be purposeful. Because what happens with passion is sometimes you can be blind with passion. You can run in and, I'm just excited, and you're tearing everything up. And it makes the distinction between that and just being purposeful.
Those are all my relationships in my 20s.
And I would in my 20s, I'd really confuse it because I'm a naturally just energetic guy. Like I'm energetic and I would characterize characterize myself as passionate, but that has evolved to me realizing like, no, what it is that you're purposeful. Like I really have a true north. Like I really have a thing that I feel like I was put here to do.
Yeah.
And what I think that energy also attracts people. You know, in The Alchemist, it says when you know what you want, the universe conspires for you to get it. You know, and so I'm very purposeful about what I want out of life, what I want out of my career, what I want for my organization, and then I get out of the way. And then I allow the universe to attract the people, the opportunities, the situations to me so I can amplify what I feel like my purpose is. You know?
That is absolutely amazing. I would say it's basically, it is passion, but it's passion with purpose. Yeah. You know, the two P's in that essence. And so,
and one thing I just want to, if I can, not to cut you off, but also, I also just try to practice humility. I don't walk into a room like I have it all figured out, like my shit doesn't stink. I hope I can cuss on here.
No, please.
And I approach life like I'm still a student. Like I want to learn. I want to learn from you. I hope we can learn some things together.
Yeah.
And I want to, and I'm not so beholden to this idea of what I'm trying to do that it has to be Lloyd's name on it. Like it has to be me doing it.
It's very unselfish.
I know we get further collaboratively.
Yeah.
You know, there's that African adage that says if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Go together. I love that.
And I just believe that, man. So like I said, I don't think it's a superpower. I just think it's a cultivated skill that I've been refining and honing for probably the past 20 years, man.
Well, look, you went to school for it. I mean, you went to school for leadership and nonprofit, right? Yeah. I mean, first of all, who the hell does that? Like, I think I'm going to do this. You know, most people are going in like.
But even that, why we consider and say it was like this smart thing. But really, the reason why I got the degree, there's two reasons. One, it's the closest I could get to a business degree without having to do all the math.
Okay, I'm right there with you.
I didn't want to do. I hate math. I didn't want to do a bunch of math.
I failed twice.
But I failed like 3 times. Algebra 1.
Bad.
And then the other thing was all of my work experience was in nonprofit. Like all of it. And so I was a non-traditional student. I went back to school at 30. So I feel like I did it in reverse, where typically you graduate, then you get the work experience to put your degree to work. I got the work experience first, and then got the degree to match my work experience. So the nonprofit leadership and management degree just made sense. It's like, this is all of your work experience has been in nonprofit. They got a degree that matches it. Get that degree.
So before I get into that part of the story, I want to rewind a little bit, because everything that you just said is like, it's really engaging. I hope people that are listening here are just like, wow, you know, this is cool. And you named some good, you know, topics of books and stuff like that. So what would you say is your... And I'm not talking church, and I'm not talking religion, but what is your spiritual practice that allows you to be, you know, because look, we're all human. We all have our moments, you know, where there's probably that fuck you in traffic and then you're catching yourself. I get all that. And like you said, there's this, you beautifully said, there's interconnectivity within all of us. And when you look at, like, you know, even right now, currently, like, you know, Russia, you know, driving a nuke over, it's like, I'm sure all of us can sit here and agree, black, white, yellow, green, you know, whatever gender you think you are or are. I think we can all agree that's a bad thing.
Yes,
like, none of us want that, because then none of us can be who we are in our beautiful selves. So what is your spiritual practice to kind of level yourself?
Yeah, so I definitely have a relationship with God. I grew up Baptist, you know, going to church every day. Or going to church every Sunday. And now I'm more, what I really believe is that we all have to have our own relationship with a higher power. Whatever that higher power is, you have to have your own unique relationship, and that can't be based on a building. You know, it can't be based on a pastor, because church can be anywhere, you know, in my opinion. Like, you could be in church in the middle of a parking lot if that's where you want it. A building is just churches are only places for you to gather with like-minded people. That's the way that I look at them. Amen. But my religion isn't confined in that building.
Yeah.
It should be wherever I go. And then pastors, preachers, they're all human beings. And I don't believe in idol worship, right? Like you treating that person like they are God. Like they're just a messenger.
Yeah.
But they are human, and humans are
They're
made in
downloading
error, and they're flawed. And so I look past all of that, and what I strive to do is have my own personal relationship with God, the higher power, with the higher power that I believe in. Mm-hmm. And that's what guides me. I pray every night.
Okay.
And, we try to tithe as best as we can. And the way that we tithe is by giving to causes or by supporting people that we think are doing good work. I'm more spiritually driven.
Yeah.
That God is everywhere that we're at, and you got to have your own relationship with them and listen to that. Listen to that voice. Mm-hmm. Trust it. Block out the noise and trust it, and that will push you.
Beautifully said. I love that. That's so cool to know where people are coming from. And like you said, everybody has their different way in their relationship with whether it be God or Yoda or whatever it is that they are in. But, it's good to respect that of those people and just know, that if you have something, then you have something,
Yeah. And it is important to have something to believe in. I think we all need... I think every child needs to have a tie to their future. Mm-hmm. They need to be able to see themselves going somewhere. Sure. And I think the better they can do that, the less trouble they get in. And they have to have a tie to, like, okay, this leads to this, and I see myself doing this. There's got to be some type of tie. And I think everybody needs to have something to believe in.
Purpose.
Like something bigger than you.
Yeah.
Like we are not the center of the universe. We're a small piece. And I think it's Buddhism that talks a lot about how small we are in this bigger thing, this whole universe. And that's also why I like to just be spiritual, because there's things you can pull from a lot of different
things,
that makes sense. But we're a small piece to this bigger thing, and remembering that. Yeah. And then we just want to leave this place better than it was when we got it. That's my goal.
Amen to that. Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk. So you get out of college. Yep. What are you doing right out of college? Because, shortly, I wouldn't say shortly after that, but in 2016, you start this $1 million teacher project, which you were considered executive director and founder.
Yes, indeed.
So let's start from, kind of getting out of college and your journey and how you got to now, this organization.
The journey's actually more, the journey before that is actually a little bit more compelling.
Okay.
Because what led me to, because when I graduated May 2016, and I launched $1 Million Teacher Project October 2016.
Okay.
So the rest is history.
So I was going to ask you about your childhood prior to that. So
let's
talk
about. So the trajectory that led me to create $1 Million Teacher Project was I was fired from a job in probably 2012, 2013, and I hadn't been unemployed since I was 16 years old.
Wow.
And as men in our society, we're really raised to be breadwinners and head of the household, and my household had to go down to a single income household. And I have 2 kids, been married for 16 years, been to get with my wife for about 21 years. And we had to go down to one income, and it was a really tough year and a half of my life. It was probably the hardest that I've ever experienced. And I really kind of went on this spiritual journey because of humility. So much of who I am today came out of that experience. Because what happened is that when I lost my job, I was stripped of all the things that I thought made me important. All the things that I thought made me worthwhile, why DELO would want to talk to me. And what I realized is how shallow and superficial I had become. But I didn't because I was, as you mentioned earlier in this podcast, I have a certain set of social skills that help me manage corporate America,
Yeah.
or even manage community work. So I was able to always work myself up with everywhere that I worked. And when I got fired, I was at this director level position, managing 30 sites, and I thought my shit didn't stink, man. And I got fired from this job, and I'm thinking, I'm Lloyd. People love me. The stuff that you were saying earlier.
Yeah.
Like, people love, man, I'm Lloyd.
Yeah, I'm invincible.
As soon as this gets out on the internet that Lloyd doesn't have a job, somebody's gonna call me and give me a job. Didn't happen.
Wow.
And so what happened is that I had to start really it forced me to start doing a lot of work on myself, man, and confronting so many of my insecurities.
Yeah.
Like, as a man, as a husband, as a father, like, who am I now? Like, I was earning $0. And it's like, who am I now? So I started to piece myself back together. I started going to therapy and really trying to deal with what was going on subconsciously with me. Like, okay, because I saw myself having some negative traits and doing some negative things. Okay, where is this coming from? So I started doing that work. And then what I also started doing is just following my interest and what I felt like was my purpose. Anything that I was interested in, I would show up. And I would try to just figure out if I liked it or I didn't like it. So I thought I wanted to work at the Men's Warehouse, so I went to Men's Warehouse. I put in my application. They didn't hire me. I started going to workshops. Anything that interests me, I would show up. And I was like, if I like to do it, then I'm going to keep coming back and I'm going to keep doing it again. So that helped me start to try to piece together what I wanted to do next. Because what I started realizing is that when I lost that job, when I was fired, that I didn't want to just go back to working for another company.
Right.
And because it helped me realize that safety net that I thought I had was an illusion. Like, these companies can go away at any moment.
Like that.
Or you can get fired at any moment. Yeah. And you're thinking, oh, I got to play it safe. I got to do. But that safety net is really just keeping you complacent.
Yeah.
And so now what I realize is that safety net is really like the analogy I use is like a dog in the yard and that has the chain on its neck and the dog wants to run, but the chain is keeping you back. That's what the safety net is. It's keeping you in that yard and preventing you from getting out here and going and exploring and really finding what you want. And so me starting to realize that, I started reading, and there were a couple things that really stuck with me. One of them was I read a Fast Company article by Richard Branson. And in that article, he talked about every company he started from discontent as a customer. So I was like, okay. I was like, all right. So, because I've always been an entrepreneur. So I was like, all right, what am I the most discontent about? Like, what is the... And that led me to education. Like, because I think education is the great equalizer. I think if you're really trying to empower people, it starts with education.
Yeah.
And when there's dysfunction in any community, it hits the marginalized communities the hardest. So I wanted to figure out how to improve education in marginalized communities. That's where it started.
Yeah.
The other thing that I read was a book called Do You by Russell Simmons. And that book talks about we all know what we want to do. Like, we all know what our purpose is.
Right.
For whatever reason, we talk ourselves out of it. Either we're not smart enough, we don't have enough money, this, that, and the third. And so he said what we need to do is actually trust that. We actually need to listen to that voice. Instead of talking ourselves out of it, trust it and lean into it, and then practice singular focus. So singular focus is focusing on an idea relentlessly and not switching to anything else until you make it happen. So I was like, all right, now I need to figure out what I'm the most discontent about, which is education. And now I'm gonna start practicing singular focus. So the first thing I did was write a book. The book is called Great, You Lost Your Job, Now Find Your Life.
That's awesome.
And where that title came from is because the day I was fired, I called my younger brother. And those were the words he said to me. I was crying. I was upset. I had never lost a job before.
Yeah.
And he told me, he said, great, you lost your job. Now find your life.
Wow.
And it hit
That's
me.
powerful.
And my brother has the tendency to do that. Like, he kind of knows the right thing to say at the right time. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was like, he's right. I need to find my life. And that's what led me to start exploring things. And so I decided to write the book. And the book became my first singular focus.
Okay.
So it's like, all right, I'm going to write this book. I'd always wanted to write a book. I didn't know what I'd write about. Now I have a subject. You know, I'm just going to journal my time through unemployment.
Yeah.
I thought it would be a short book. It wound up being a year and a half, you know, and when you read it, you really get to see kind of the deconstruction of a man, you know, and rebuilding himself. And so I journaled for a year and a half, and the day that I put the book out, I got a call for a job, like the day. So I self-published it, put it out on my own, and then a friend of mine that was working for another community organization calls me and says, hey, I've been telling them about you in the office. They want to interview you. And so that whole year and a half, I didn't get a job because I wasn't working by choice.
Right.
But wasn't not working by choice because I was applying for stuff. One, nobody wanted to hire me for a position that was similar to what I had because I didn't have my degree. Yeah. And that's what led me to go back to school because it's like I need to give them one less thing to hold against me. Right. So I was like, let me go back to school, get that degree. And then I just couldn't get hired by anybody. And so I put the book out. I get this call for a job I wasn't even applying for. And then that was the realization that, okay, the singular focus thing works. Like that book was my singular focus. Now what's my next singular focus? So the job that I got, I was working for the county, and they allowed me the flexibility to work full time and go to school full time.
That's really cool.
So I was able to cut out in the middle of the day and do my homework and go to school and come back to work. And all of that was reaffirming that when you trust your purpose, the universe is going to make your path for this to work out for you. So now I'm in school, and I'm like, all right, my next singular focus is going to be finishing school. So while I'm in school, I start building the business plan for $1 Million Teacher Project.
Gotcha.
And that helped my time in school be meaningful because now I'm 30 in school with a bunch of 20-year-olds, 18, 19-year-olds. And what kept me from going insane was the fact that there was purpose to it. I'm like, okay, all of my teachers became my consultants. Yeah. I'm like, I'm paying for this anyway. Yeah. Like, let me consult with you about this business I'm trying to start. All of my class projects revolved around some different element of me building this business plan. Beautiful. So if we're writing a paper, I'm writing a paper about the teacher shortage in Arizona. Yeah. So it allowed me to explore this whole thing. So then when and then the organization I was working with also allowed me to do my internship there, and I was able to use my internship to participate in some accelerator programs. Okay. You know, and so when I graduated, I came out with this fully fleshed out business plan. Wow. And so I graduated May 2016. I established this organization October 2016, and 6 years later, we've impacted about 20,000 teachers in the past 6 years. Just recently got some big investments from the Department of Education and beautiful, all of those things. But it's a testament to following your purpose, believing in it, and then doing the work, because it's not going to happen on its own. No. So you got to do the work. So from graduation to today, once I graduated, what it looked like was me starting to figure out now how to actually build this. And I got to start executing, right? And the very first thing that I did was because I started $1 Million Teacher Project with $0 in the bank. I didn't have any investors. Right. Yeah. I had no idea how I'd really generate enough revenue through donations to actually grow this organization. I had no idea. So what I figured out is I got to figure out a starting point, a starting point where I don't have to ask anybody for permission. It doesn't cost me a lot of money to do it, and it at least gives me something to talk to people about, so I can start building some wins, start building some success stories. So the first thing that led me to was doing a social media campaign called Teacher Thank You Notes, because around this time the Ice Bucket Challenge was going crazy. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna try to create an Ice Bucket Challenge. You don't realize how hard it is to go viral until you're trying to go viral. Yeah, you know, like it's not just not anything can capture that lightning. And so teacher thank you notes never took off. Still hasn't taken off. It's still a pain for me. But doing because I couldn't get people, and the reason I started with the teacher thank you notes is because I knew I could at least bug 10 of my friends to get on camera and tell a story about their favorite teacher. Right there, an organization was born. I had 10 of my friends do these videos. I put them on social media, and it got the ball rolling. And then after I went through that 10, it's like, well, I need to have more videos. So I started doing teacher thank you note events. Where I would bring people together and I'd have food there and things like that. And have a camera crew. A friend of mine, Kima Charles, Lights Camera Discover. They're a media production nonprofit. She would volunteer her team to record these videos for me. I would bring food. We'd pick a location, and people were enjoying that. That event turned into Take a Teacher to Lunch. That's what you and I now collaborate on. Because what I saw was that bringing lunches to schools was an easy entry point for me to get on a campus. Because no principal is going to say, no, you can't bring my teacher's lunch. You're trying to bring, and I don't got to pay for it.
Bringing them drugs.
You're bringing them lunch. Come on in here. And so it was a way for me to start building relationships with schools, getting on the school campuses that created the pathway for me to bring all the rest of our programming to schools in due time. But that's how it started, man. That was the journey.
That's beautiful. And so how much love do you just feel from the teachers and from these events that you do? I mean, this is relatively a newer organization. And it's literally has picked up steam, and you have a lot of great people, behind you and with you. And from where I can see where you're at now, holy crap, the sky's the limit, It's just a matter of time, really.
The goal is to be international, man. I like to say I want to go wherever teachers are, because I just think as a global society, we can always do more for our educators. And I'm going to tell you, because being a teacher is a largely thankless job, especially a teacher at a school that we serve. Because we do Title I schools, and for people that don't know what a Title I school is a school where between 50 to 80% of the students are on free and reduced lunch. And to qualify for free and reduced lunch, you have to be at or below the poverty level.
Wow.
So that's the composition of the schools that we partner with in those marginalized communities, because we want to run into the fire. We want to go to where the most need is in the schools that are struggling the hardest, because if we can create something that works in those environments, then we can really create a more equitable education system. So we want to make it to where teaching in those environments is the destination. So $1 Million Teacher Project is really a perk package for educators. Like, we want, when that logo is in the school campus, it attracts teachers. It attracts people to want to come teach on that campus. It's an indication to the community that the teachers here are supported. They're recognized and elevated for their work, and there's at least some things going on so they feel well compensated.
It gives them something to look forward to. It makes them feel appreciated. I mean, it's amazing, and that's the thing. It goes right back to exactly what you said earlier, and that's the education equalizer. Because why wouldn't somebody want everybody to be educated, especially in this beautiful country that we live in, all helping each other and, building better processes, better cars, better whatever, businesses, better love. I mean, all that stuff.
And if you think about it, next to our parents, our teachers are the next most important caring adult in our life. And especially our formative years, K-12, so at least the first 12 years of our youth, we're spending more time with our teachers than we are with our parents.
100%.
And if we understood as parents, if we understood as adults, business leaders, that the future is in the classroom, and that if we really want to make sure that we have happy, healthy, whole students coming out of those classrooms, we got to make sure there's happy, healthy, whole teachers in those classrooms. And it connects all of us. The teaching profession is the one profession that none of us escape life without being impacted by in some capacity.
Right.
Whether it's a good experience or a bad experience. Because I wasn't one of those kids that had like that lean on me moment with a teacher. I didn't have a teacher that, hey, Lloyd, you're going to be somebody. And I like to say that I created $1 Million Teacher Project for both of those audiences, for that kid that had that great teacher, because every kid should, and for those ones that were like me, that were more like the slips through the cracks kid, you know, because I wasn't bad enough in school to get a lot of attention, and also wasn't good enough in school to get a lot of attention. I was like I was one of those right in the middle kind of kids, you know, and those kids can often be ignored, you know.
Yeah.
So I launched this for them, man, for both of those audiences.
That's great. Teachers for me were everything. I grew up in Atlanta and went to elementary, middle school, and then some high school. And I graduated high school out here and went to finish ASU as well. And you know, Miss Bradley, she was the shit. I mean, this lady, oh my God, I wish I could find her again out in Atlanta. And probably the stuff back then that teachers were able to get away with that they probably can't now. But I still have it. I have a trophy, and it's about 12 inches high, and it's a trophy of this, like, you know, this dude in gold, you know, holding their arms up like this, and you know, I was crowned, like, you know, best student of the year, some shit like
That's
that.
amazing.
It was great, but the point being is that it's like, it gave me a look into today. I mean, it helped, you know, she built that confidence of me as a little kid, and I'll never forget that moment. And many other moments I have with great teachers. I still Facebook friends with some of my teachers that were PE teachers and this and that. No, it's
shout out to Miss Bradley for doing that and putting that trophy in your hands, because that also, I'm sure, helped you realize hard work pays off.
100%.
You know? And
yeah,
and I love hearing those stories, and that was the thing that let me know this, because I'm a teacher fan, man.
Yeah.
And even just hearing it warms my spirit, because I'm like, yeah, man.
I love that. How do people listening, if they want to, how can they get involved with $1 Million Teacher? I mean, obviously you can stroke a check.
Yeah,
you know,
you can always donate, because what nonprofit, what anybody that's doing good work, anybody that's running a nonprofit, anybody listening to this, just humor me for 10 seconds. You have to understand that nonprofits are also businesses.
Yeah.
As soon as they have staff, they're
bills to
also a
pay.
business. The only difference is a tax exempt status.
Right.
And our money is for the public good, or our product is for the public good and to impact society in some capacity. But what anybody running a nonprofit needs more than just a pat on the back is your donation.
Yeah.
You know, so they can build capacity around that work. Anybody that's doing good work that you care about, whether it's animals, plants, teachers, they need to build capacity around that work, because if it remains to be just them as a lone wolf in the field trying to make this change happen, they're eventually going to get exhausted. And then when they get exhausted, the work goes away, you know, and so they need to be able to build and invest in infrastructure.
Right.
So you can always donate 100%. People can connect with us online or through our website, $1,000,000teacherproject.org. All spell it out, $1,000,000teacherproject.org, or on all social media platforms. You can find us at M as in million, D as in dollar, T as in teacher project. At MDT Project on all social media platforms.
I'll put all that in the show notes, and that's very, very well said. I mean, look, people, I know a lot of y'all got, you know, quite a bit of government money you're going to be taxed on anyway, so, you know, give some of it back to a charity.
Right.
All right, before I let you go, I got a couple of rapid-fire questions for you, okay? Cereal or candy bars?
Woo! I think as of today, candy bar.
What's your favorite candy bar?
Milky Way.
Okay.
I'm a Milky Way guy.
Awesome. Bigfoot or aliens?
Aliens. I'm all about space. We were talking Star Wars. Yeah.
There you go.
I'm all about it.
Love
and
it.
aliens are out there. Anybody that thinks we're the only thing in the universe, you're nuts.
They're here in this room. I mean, they're showing up differently. Would you rather travel or stay at home?
Travel.
Yeah,
Travel.
I see that on your Facebook page. You were just in D.C. You're going to Disneyland or Disney World, as we talked about. Hotel or Airbnb?
Ooh. Hotel. Just primarily because I haven't had a whole lot of exposure to Airbnb. I've stayed in a couple, I'm just more comfortable at a nice hotel.
Okay, here's my perspective.
Yeah.
If you're going to go out of town, you just want to throw your shit all over and just leave and have somebody clean up after you. If you're going to an Airbnb, sometimes I just feel like you're home and you got to pick up everything and clean and, actually cook for yourself.
Yeah.
Would you rather swim to Alcatraz or run Death Valley?
Whew. Sheesh.
Death Valley in the summer.
Oh.
Yeah. So sharks or heat?
I think I'm going to run the Alcatraz, man. I'm not a great swimmer. Can I scuba? Can I have a scuba gear?
That's fine.
If I can scuba gear, swim the Alcatraz.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. And then last but not least, Metallica or Aerosmith?
Aerosmith.
Okay.
Aerosmith. Just because I'm more familiar with Aerosmith. I'm more of a hip hop guy. That's where my ear goes. So I'm more familiar with Aerosmith.
Well, okay, so Dream On by Aerosmith. I mean, it's a great theme to all that we have here. But if you gave me your top 3 hip hop albums that you're stranded on island with.
Aquemini, Outkast, Blueprint, Jay-Z, and man, I'll throw Kendrick Lamar's new Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers in there.
Those are
those
three amazing
3,
artists, yeah.
I think they'll get me through.
That Jay-Z record's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being my guest today.
Man, I'm honored.
It's awesome to hang with you again.
Always.
And you got a lot of great stuff coming up. I'll put everything in show notes. I appreciate everybody listening. This podcast is sponsored by myself. So if you get a chance, please share it. Please share Lloyd's message. Please give us a 5-star to help us just with rankings and get some, get some feed going on. And appreciate it. Love you all. Peace out. And until next time, see ya.
See ya.